Hey everyone, welcome back to Your Money Your Life podcast, episode 288 of the podcast. Of course, make sure wherever you listen, you like, subscribe, make sure you five-star rate and review. We are back and we are back better than ever. We have the microphone back, we have everything back. We're getting all moved in. We are getting all set up in the new place. Love the new place. Gotta help me out with the background. What should I have back here? We haven't figured it out yet. We will get that figured out. Send suggestions, send thoughts, send everything, and we'll get it done. Also, send fan letters. We have a sweet address. I'll send that to you. Send fan letters, send anything. I should send friend letters. And we'll get all that read on air. Ask for the sweet address, and we'll send it for the office. We will not be giving out the home address, of course. Let's go on to the new episode and talk a little bit more about this. Some exciting stuff happening. Very exciting stuff. We have tariff talks. We've talked about that extensively over the past couple months. And now we have some sort of short-term resolution, not a long-term, but we have a short-term resolution. Let's dive into it on our screens. For the YouTubers, you're all locked in. You're all seeing it. If you're not on YouTube, that's okay. You're hearing it and hopefully hearing it well. Let's move over to this. Let's look at the actual, year-to-date market update. So again, we have the Spider S&P 500 ETF Trust. It's a ETF that follows the market, the S&P 500, which is one of the indexes that pretty much tracks how well the market's doing. You should all know this. Year to date, from the beginning of the year till now, almost 6 months in, 5 months roughly, we are flat. Remember, people told you the world was ending in March and April, that the world is going to crash and burn, and that the stocks are going to go to zero like they always do. The whole same rhetoric that happens every time there's a pullback or a minor correction, the same rhetoric that you guys all spout, and then it doesn't happen. We all still live. We all still breathe oxygen, H2O. We all still keep going on. Cars still drive. Animals still do what they do. Birds still chirp in the morning. And it doesn't end, just like it hasn't ended for billions of years. Is that right? Has the world been around millions of years? Someone fact check that. It's never going to end. The song will still continue, as we've said over and over again. And the timing of what we said was pretty darn accurate. We said, give it till end of April, early May, and you'll see that turnaround happen. And that was our first indication, unless something, catastrophic happened or new information was introduced. And we were pretty darn accurate, which is hard to be in this whole game of understanding the market. We saw it starting late April, May, and we're about flat. And if the futures are correct today, we'll be positive for the year at the end of this day if the futures hold. And the futures indicating a 1% gain on the S&P 500. If they hold, we'll be positive for the year when the world was supposed to end in April and May. That's just showing that people don't have any long-term conviction. They don't have any understanding of the market. They're just looking for hope and swings and different things that aren't the way this should be played. So again, that's just another indication of what people do. Let's look at why the market's doing what it's doing in a sense. Let's look at some actual updates. The futures are moving today because the U.S. Court of International Trade, did anyone know that that was a thing? The U.S. Court of International Trade ruled on Wednesday night that Trump overstepped his authority when he imposed his reciprocal tariffs. So Liberation Day was an overstep. He couldn't do that, is what they're saying. The court ordered that the challenged tariff orders be vacated. They're saying he can't put those tariffs on countries, on China, on all those different places and everywhere pretty much. When he did on April 2nd, he announced his Trump duties, Liberation Day. He changed the approach toward trade policy as well as, fueled inflation fears in the process of tariffs increasing prices. Some companies have highlighted that levies and dialed back their forecasts. As we saw a lot of guidance that we talked about this last week, guidance from companies was being shaped by the tariffs. Are they going to hold their margins? For now, the judge's decision appears to have allayed investors' worries. However, this development can also raise concerns that the U.S. trade negotiations with foreign countries could be drawn out until later the year than previously anticipated. That is true. We've never known Trump to just lay down and take some ruling from someone else. He's going to fight back and do something that could be even more fire stoking than what he previously did. So we'll see that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But so the drama isn't over for sure with the tariffs, but we'll see. Also, we'll talk about Nvidia. Their shares did jump. In fact, let's get into current business news. NVIDIA shares jumped, and that's literally just because they topped estimates on stronger than expected profit and revenue in the last quarter, underscoring persistent demand for the company's advanced semiconductors powering the AI boom. So they're pretty much making the chips, making the computing power, and servicing companies that need this chips and computer power for this AI advancement, the computing power used to run our chat GPTs, our algorithms, our Claudes, our Geminis, our Series. What's the Microsoft one? Well, I guess it would be ChatGPT through OpenAI, but they also have their own internal one. They're using these chips, and NVIDIA's just seeing the boom from it. The earnings per share topped Wall Street projections, while revenue surged 69% to 44 billion. Is NVIDIA going to be the biggest company in the world in a short matter of time? I 100% believe they're already in the top five, right? So pretty soon they're going to be the biggest company in the world, in my estimation. Over the past year, NVIDIA's absurd earnings beat have impressed investors. Shares of the AI giant soared in after hours trading. So that's another indication of what they're doing here as they continue to boom. Um, let's go to retailer news again. We talked about retail stuff last week, but there's a new retailer. Well, actually, it's more of an online digital makeup company, but ELF Beauty is purchasing Hailey Bieber's popular cosmetic and skincare line, Rhode, for 1 billion. The deal includes 600 million in cash, 200 million in shares, and potential 200 million earnout based on Rhode's growth. This move helps ELF Beauty diversify its China heavy supply chain and rising tariffs, as well as expand its current foothold in the Gen Z beauty market. Bieber plans to stay on as a strategic advisor. So she cashed out. That's what's up. We don't know how much of the company she owned, but she probably owned a lot of it. She did raise money through angel investors and through capital companies throughout the growth of the company. But it's safe to say she's going to really earn like nine figures on this cash out. And that's incredible. They didn't say she became a billionaire through this announcement, which they usually do, like they did with Kendall, Kim, and all those different people that sold part of their companies for like majority shares, and the ownership that they had of the company. Well, there was a different situation because also they kept some of the company, but still here they would have said kind of made some announcement. But it's safe to say she made hundreds of millions of dollars from this sale. So that's congrats to them. That's pretty really impressive. And you see these influencers use their influence and their platforms, their social media followings to create products that they sell to these people, and hopefully these products are good, but good or not, it did say in one of the reports that they did 230 some million of net sales last year, which is makes the valuation make sense to me, about 5x, right? Five times net sales, which probably a little rich, but it makes sense in these type of, platform heavy companies with, influencers and things of that nature that are growing fast. So congrats to her. And that's a huge, huge win. Let's move over to the Fed. The Federal Reserve is urging patience amid uncertainty. The Federal Reserve is set to continue holding off on interest rate changes. They're not ready to lower interest rates just yet. They said there's a heightened economic uncertainty and rising inflation risks. This is according to newly released minutes of the group's last meeting. Federal officials advise a cautious approach until the net economic effects of the array of changes to the government policies become more clear. They just want to see what's going on. They want to understand policies. We just explained a change that happened last night on the tariffs that we didn't know about before. Who was the Global Trade International, whoever that was? We didn't even know about them. And all of a sudden, they just stopped the tariffs. So the Fed has to understand the landscape and understand what's going to happen and have certainty so they can provide guidance and also make the changes necessary. Um, so yeah, the latest FOMC meeting minutes contain 19 mentions of the word uncertainty. So they said the word uncertainty 19 times, and that should surprise no one. When you read about the Fed's last minute, it's a sign of the times and the construct of timeline to figure out what the reality they were writing from, even though it was just a few weeks ago. So they're just uncertain about what's happening, and they want to make sure before they start to lower interest rates. Because once you lower interest rates, you really, I mean, you kind of go that trick. It's kind of like rolling a rock downhill. You can't just all of a sudden stop it in the middle of the roll and try to push it back up and raise it again. That just doesn't work. You've never seen it work in history. You've never seen it done in history. So interest rates are going to stay elevated. Bond yields are going to stay elevated. That's indication that people don't think that mortgage rates, any of those things are going to be going down any time soon. We anticipated it will over the course of a few years. But if you're anticipating, oh, mortgage rates are going to come down next year or two or whatever, you can't make that assessment just yet. Not just yet. Let's go back into the trade court blocks by the U.S. tariff. So the U.S. Court of International Trade ruled that the White House oversteps authority. We talked about that. They ruled Wednesday that the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which the Trump administration invoked to impose many of the new tariffs, does not give the authority for to the president to skirt Congress in regulating international commerce. The White House says it will appeal the decision. So they're going to appeal this decision. As we said, they're not going to go down without a fight. But as of now, it's blocked. So we went from, if we do the quick math, back in the napkin, we went from what 250 trillion in tariff annualized to zero. So now they're saying like none of these tariffs can be implemented. So that's zero tariffs, right? There's a ruling that we have to our right that we could read about it, but they're pretty much saying they were unlawful and not able to do. So too long didn't read. The federal court has invalidated the Liberation Day tariffs. And that's probably good temporary news. You see, the market is responding to that in kind, as we looked at it early with futures pointing up. NASDAQ is up even up over a percent in the futures market. The bad news is we know he'll probably come out guns blazing and he'll, as usual, he'll fight to the end, and to the bitter end. It should come as no surprise that, we know the history. So, if you think about it, we're still potentially have upside to go, but we just don't know. We have to wait and see how these tariffs play out and how this ruling plays out. Because if it's skirted again, or if there's a new liberation day down the pipeline through some legal maneuvering, then you'll see the market react in kind. And so that's something you should keep in mind as well. Let's see what else news there was. There was something with pennies that I wanted to go over, which I think was interesting. They stopped making the penny. Did anyone see that? They stopped making the penny. Do I have that story on the stop of the penny? I don't know if I do, but they did stop making the penny. I think that's a treasury decision. So, you know, it costs more than a penny to make the penny. So we were losing money actually producing them. So they cut this back. So that's an interesting story enough for us to look at and understand for as well. But anything else in the news? There wasn't much besides talking the big news about trade. That was the big news about trade and how Liberation Day is blocked. There's no more Liberation Day, which I think is really interesting. We'll have to keep our eyes on that. Is there anything else? I didn't see anything. Let's look at our actual personal finance questions of the week and knock those out. See if we have anything interesting on this docket for personal finance questions of the week. Like the last ones we did last week, really good, actually really challenging. Oh, I like this one. All right. Oh, I really like this one. We got some two really good ones, folks. Two really good ones. We're gonna start with the not as exciting one. I think this one's okay, but I'm actually curious on what the answer is. What is the average amount of time between a job interview and receiving an offer? I think it's lengthening now, right? It's got longer. Back in the day, maybe it was just because of the level of jobs we were applying for like 10 years ago. But it was like, you apply, go through a couple round interviews, you hear it a month, a few weeks, right? Now I feel like it's 2 months. They make you do PowerPoints for all these people. I don't even know. I don't apply to jobs anymore, obviously, but I feel like been 2 months. They make you do this, that. You have to do a PowerPoint presentation. You have to send them a project. You have to like do the work for them before they actually give you an offer. It's a tough time. So I'd say it's 2 to 3 months. Back in the day, I felt like it was a month to a few weeks. But let's see where I'm at. Oh, 24 business days. Okay, the speed of the business world can be amazing, except maybe during the hiring process. They said 24 business days. This is from Indeed.com. Research has shown that the average time it takes people to receive feedback after an interview varies. 44% get feedback from the employer within a few weeks of applying. 37 get feedback within 1 week of applying. Less than 4% get feedback within the day. The average response time from an interview is 24 business days. So it's just response time, or is it to get the job? Um, Interesting. So I guess response is getting the job or hearing that you don't get it. So that's interesting enough. 24 days. All right. Let's go to our next question. What is the number one reported mistake related to planning for retirement? I think we've maybe broached this before, but of course it's not saving enough. I would say not saving enough and not having guidance, but I think one of those is right. I don't know what the other. Oh, okay. Underestimating the impact of inflation. That's not saving enough and or not investing properly. Underestimating how long you'll live. That's a good one. That's very true. How do we know? How long will you live? The golden rule is like 25 years in retirement, but how do we know? When do you retire? Overestimating investment income. That's again, all these tie back to not saving enough. 100%. Um, but that's a good one. I like that one. And it's something to think about. Overestimating investment income, what you're going to pull from your retirement, tax implications, all those things are super, super important. And that's what planners like myself help with because it's a really, really arduous road that you normally don't want to go down alone, especially if you have no clue what you're doing or had no one around you that's done it before. So those are really, really good points and things to remember. Folks, remember, we do this every week. We do this every week. Make sure you tell your family and friends to tune in with us every week because we are going live. We're doing this weekly. We're giving information and we love doing it. We will see you next week.